The Chargers have the 5th pick in the draft, but we all know that Joe Hortiz would like to trade down if the opportunity presents itself. The problem is that the Cardinals, they are one spot ahead of them, and they also might want to trade down for the same reasons that the Chargers do. And today I am going to go through every report to try and figure out what might transpire on draft day, because the worst kept secret in the NFL right now is that the Vikings want to trade up for JJ McCarthy. So make sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this content, man. It helps me out so much. And let's just go ahead and start off with JJ McCarthy. So Dane Brugler of The Athletic was way ahead of this. Even in February, he said that JJ McCarthy is probably going to go somewhere in the top 12 picks. The 12th pick, that's where the Broncos are at. Now he's saying JJ McCarthy going to be top 8. Don't rule out Sean Payton trading up. I mean, that would be kind of crazy if the Broncos did actually find the ammunition to trade up. But obviously the Vikings, they traded with the Texans to get that number 23 overall pick in order to prep for a big trade up for a quarterback. But not only that, the Vikings and the Broncos are reportedly interested, but the Giants are interested in also trading up for a quarterback. Now, they like Jayden Daniels a lot, but they are certain that he's going to go in the top 3. And it's interesting to me that they say in the top 3, not at number 3 overall. So does that mean that the Commanders could draft Jayden Daniels over Drake May? And if the Commanders do draft him and the Patriots wanted Jayden Daniels really bad, would they then pass on Drake May and then the Vikings are able to trade up to that number 3 spot to draft Drake May? There are so many possibilities, but I'm just going with the report right now that the top 3 teams, they want to stay where they are, and they're going to take those top 3 quarterbacks. No matter what order it is, that's what we're going with. So then after those 3 quarterbacks go, the Cardinals are at 4th overall, and the Cardinals general manager, he has said they are open for business. They got a big neon sign out there. It's not blinking because he doesn't want to hurt the people's eyes, but the trade talks, he said, they have heated up, and we're a month away from the draft, and the trade talks are heating up all the way out here. I mean, we are definitely going to see a trade in a month from now. And the Cardinals, just this past season, they got a new general manager, new head coach, and like whole new coaching staff. And now they run a run-heavy offense. I mean, Kyler Murray, when he was playing this past season, he didn't really have any good chemistry with those wide receivers. He was struggling to get throws to like Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, but he did have good chemistry with the tight end, Trey McBride. And the Cardinals offense last year, they ran a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, kind of like what Jim Harbaugh is doing. But if you look at the Cardinals wide receiver room, I mean, they really haven't addressed wide receiver at all outside of Chris Moore and free agency. But listen, they traded away Rondale Moore. They let Marquise Brown go to the frickin' Chiefs, and they drafted Michael Wilson this past season, who is a big wide receiver. He's 6'2", 213 pounds. And then Chris Moore, who they just signed in free agency for very low money, 6'1", 200 pounds. Marvin Harrison Jr. is 6'3", 210 pounds. So maybe he fits the mold that they want at wide receiver, and they're letting these other guys go like Rondale Moore and Marquise Brown because they don't fit the mold of what they want in their system at wide receiver. I mean, they said Marvin Harrison Jr. not participating in the draft process, with the combine and the pro day. It does not bother them. So would the Cardinals just pass out on a trade in order to stay at 4 and take Marvin Harrison Jr. or even like Malik Neighbors, because he fits that mold as well? I don't know, because they are in the same position as the Chargers, really, because would you draft a wide receiver that highly, even if he is best player available, when your offense runs that brand of football of run heavy? I mean, Harbaugh ball offense. We all know that. So then the question is, would the Cardinals want to stay at 4th overall in order to take a wide receiver when they need one really badly? Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors both fit what they want, but their offense, they have a very run-heavy offense. I mean, they run that same brand of football that the Chargers are going to with Jim Harbaugh. So why would they draft a wide receiver at 4th overall? And now, obviously, you can see why the Cardinals would want to trade down just as much as we do as Chargers fans. I mean, the Cardinals general manager just this past season, He made 2 trades in the top 10 picks. So we know that when he says that he is open to trade, he means it. And he's saying it. He's been saying it for like we are a month out, and he's saying that trade talks are heating up. And the Vikings and the Giants, they're probably not going to be able to get into that top 3 like the reports are saying. So those teams are going to be fighting for that 4th pick to get JJ McCarthy. And it's going to be really interesting to see who the Cardinals do actually trade with. Will they go with the Vikings, get the 11th and 23rd overall pick, or will they just go down 2 spots to the Giants? Because then you could still have one of those wide receivers that fit your mold and fit what you want to do. These guys are both really, really high-end wide receiver ones. The argument for best player in this draft is really like between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I mean, you cannot go wrong with either one of these guys. So if the Cardinals do take that trade with the Giants, they only go down 2. The Chargers at 5, they would probably pick Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe Malik Neighbors. I know a lot of you guys like Malik Neighbors. Let's just say they do in this case. Then the Cardinals would be able to trade down and take their wide receiver that they wanted anyway, that they would have taken at 4. So I think it's very likely that they trade down. That's the scenario with the Giants, but also they could trade with the Vikings to get even more draft capital. If they trade with the Vikings, they go all the way down to 11. So whoever the Cardinals trade with, the Giants, the Vikings, maybe even the Broncos, if something crazy happens, then would that 5th pick even have a trade market? Would anyone want to trade up with the Chargers? Well, I think they actually would. It would obviously lower the value a little bit because that trade just happened for the 4th pick, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is a guy that a lot of teams would want to trade up for. I'm sure the Jets at 10th overall, I think they're a very big possibility. They did just sign Mike Williams, but they got Aaron Rodgers. They're really going all in on this year. And then the Cardinals, if they trade down to 11 with the Vikings, they could want to trade up to the 5th overall pick, just like they did this past season. They traded down, and then they traded back up into the top 10 to take Paris Johnson, I think at the 6th overall pick. So maybe they trade down, trade back up to the Chargers spot at number 5 overall, and take Marvin Harrison Jr., the guy that they were going to take anyway. And then the Chargers could take the 11th and 23rd overall picks from the Cardinals that they took from the Vikings. And then it's a win-win-win for everybody. The Vikings get their quarterback, the Cardinals get their wide receiver, and they get a trade package and trading down from the Vikings. And then the Chargers, they trade down, which they wanted to do anyways, and they got the 11th and 23rd overall pick. I feel like a mad genius right now, but that is a real scenario that could happen where every team gets off with what they want. The Chargers, with the 11th and 23rd overall pick, they would still be able to draft a cornerback, wide receiver, or offensive lineman at that 11th spot. And then 23, then you're probably looking at either a wide receiver or an offensive lineman. I mean, still you could draft a cornerback right there because Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think he fits what the Chargers want to do really well. I would not even rule out trading down from that number 23 overall spot in order to get another pick in the top 50 or top 100. But that, of course, is if the Cardinals trade with the Vikings. Now, if they trade with the Giants, then I think, the only other trade down option is probably the Jets at 10th overall. If they don't do that, the Chargers would be forced to pick at 5. If the Chargers are forced to pick at 5, I think it would have to be either Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. And then if it's not that, I don't think it would be Joe Alt at offensive line because there have been reports coming out that they're not really interested in him at that 5th pick, which is, some of you might like that, some of you might hate it. But also, I think a wild card here that a lot of people would kind of be thrown off with, but some people would like, some people would hate. Brock Bowers could even be the 5th pick if they are forced to stay at 5 and they don't want to take a wide receiver like that badly. I don't know how I would feel about that, but I think that's like a legitimate scenario. I also think Terrion Arnold would be a legitimate case scenario right there. So it's either cornerback 1 and Terrion Arnold, Brock Bowers, a tight end, offensive weapon, or one of those wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. That's what it's looking like right now if they don't trade down. But there are some very, very real possibilities, just like that crazy one that I said with the Cardinals and the Vikings, where the Chargers would legitimately be able to trade down. So it is still possible, but they might be forced to pick at 5. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys would prefer, because I get a lot of comments. Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors is better than Marvin Harrison Jr. No, we need to trade down no matter what. There are some people that are still in that Brock Bowers camp. A lot of you guys would love that pick. But if you did not see my video yesterday, there's a lot of Michigan players that the Chargers are interested in.